On today's Motorhaus, we're here at RAF Cosford to celebrate 25 years of the Porsche 996. Hello everyone and welcome back to Motorhaus, and today we're here at a slightly windy RAF Cosford celebrating 25 years of the 996 generation model of Porsche 911. Now stay with us, because if you've ever interested about all the different variations and the history of the car that arguably saved Porsche, well, you're in for a treat for the next 10 to 15 minutes. So cast your mind back to the 1990s. Generally speaking, it was an era of great optimism. It was the PlayStation generation. It was the era for which a lot of us, we got online for the first time. However, over in Stuttgart, the guys at Porsche, well, they had a bit of a conundrum. You see, the Porsche 911 by that point was already a very old design. It had gone through numerous facelifts, numerous model revisions, but the traditional concept of an air-cooled 911 was reaching the end of its service life. Now, as far back as the 1970s, Porsche had already tried to replace the air-cooled 911 with projects such as the 928, but by the 90s, all of those projects that they'd come up with to either replace or revamp the air-cooled 911 were dead. They were reaching the end of the road. Porsche was in big trouble. Cash was running out. They needed a new concept, something new to push Porsche forward for the upcoming millennium. Porsche's engineers knew that the future of their new cars was in water cooling for lots of different reasons, mainly down to efficiency. It meant that the cars would make more power and that the emissions would be lower as they moved in to the 21st century. There were two cars that Porsche placed their bets on for the future. Firstly was the brand new Boxster, a relatively affordable, lightweight two-seater roadster, and then sharing a lot of the same parts was this, the then new 996 era of Porsche 911. Both cars shared a lot of components, and at the time it was something that caused a lot of hardcore Porsche enthusiasts to be in uproar, because the 911 has always been something unique. It had always been something that was defined by its quirkiness, by its air cooling. But by the time the 90s have arrived, that quirkiness meant that there were niche cars with a very small market, and so this new car, the 996, had to be much more mass market and have much more appeal. So the 996 generation of 911 has, for a lot of years, been in the doldrums, but it wasn't always the case. When the 996 was released, press journalists praised massive amount of praise on the car. It was faster and lighter than the car it replaced, more efficient, more powerful, handled better. It was, in period, a massive success, and huge numbers of these cars were built. Now that means that if you're looking for an affordable, usable Porsche 911 here in the 21st century, this now really is the enthusiast's 911 of choice. But what model to pick? Do you go two-wheel drive? Do you go four-wheel drive? Convertible? Coupe? Maybe you want a turbocharged car? Well, if you've asked those questions, come with us and we'll give you a tour of every model and every variation of the 996. So this, for the 996, was where it all began. This is a very early Carrera. This is very much how the cars were launched. In 1997, the very first of the 996s hit the scene for us here in Europe. And these early cars, you can usually tell at a glance because they have the infamous runny egg headlights with this orange band at the front. Also, this is very typical of an early car because it has the turbo twist wheels. These early cars, for people looking for a real driver-focused car, are a great choice. They're very light, They're very simple, but still quite potent. 3.4 litre engine in these, developing very nearly 300 bhp. When launched, you had a choice of either two-wheel drive Carrera 2 or four-wheel drive Carrera 4 options, and also a choice of a 6-speed manual or a 5-speed Tiptronic gearbox. In '98, the basic Carrera Coupe was also joined by a convertible option, which has a very nice electro-hydraulic folding roof for those sunny days. In 1999, a very special addition to the 996 range joined the lineup, and that's the GT3. It's called the GT3 because it is effectively a road-legal version of the GT3 race car series 911. A casual observer, you can easily identify it because it'll have no rear seats and also sits quite a lot lower than a standard car. It's much stiffer, it's much lighter, it's much more performance focused, and as a result of that, the most interesting change is what you'll find under that rear deck lid. Back there is not the M96 engine. Back there is in fact a variant of the traditional air-cooled Metzger type engine, this time in naturally aspirated trim, making between 360 and in these later cars 380 bhp at a very, very high red line. These are genuine enthusiast cars, genuine race-focused track day cars for the road. Another one that should definitely be on your radar if you're looking for a modern classic that's only going to appreciate. It's impossible to think of the 911 legacy without mentioning the turbo. Introduced in the year 2000, this was the new water-cooled turbo. Although a big change, this did not rely on the M96 engine architecture. Underneath the deck lid back there, it's based on the traditional air-cooled Metzger style engine, and power output was massive. Developing between 420 and 450 bhp if you had an X50 package car, the 996 turbo delivered genuine near 200 mph supercar performance. To rein all of that performance in and make it accessible, all variants of the 996 turbo left the factory in four-wheel drive. You could have them as either a manual or a Tiptronic transmission. Visually, to keep all that power in check, this debuted the wide body style of 996 with big flared arches at the rear, the big air ducts in the back to channel air back to the intercoolers, and much bigger brakes as well. If you're looking for a genuinely usable everyday supercar with running costs that will be much lower than a lot of other exotica, then the 996 Turbo should absolutely be on your list. In 2002, the 996 received a facelift. The easiest way to spot that is that all cars now got the turbo style headlights. Other big news in 2002, a completely new body style was launched, the Targa. The Targa is a very interesting concept. It has a full-length sliding glass panoramic roof, and what you may not be aware of is it is in fact a hatchback. The rear glass area lifts up. All cars in 2002 also received some very useful updates. Mainly the engine capacity grew to 3.6 litres and the power output rose by 15 bhp to 315 bhp. Inside you got cup holders finally and a glove box. If you're entranced by the big muscular look of a wide body turbo but don't need the performance and maybe are a bit scared by the supercar running costs, then this model, the Carrera 4S, could be the model to look at. Introduced in 2002 along with the model-wide facelift, the Carrera 4S couples the wide body of the turbo, the big brakes and the four-wheel drive running gear with the standard Carrera engine. Now, depending on your point of view, this is either the most handsome and beautiful of all the 996 generations ever made, or it's a bit of a sheep in wolf's clothing with all of the weight, all of the turbo look, but without the performance. Whatever you choose to decide, this is a very popular model of 996 and one for which values have been firm and strong for a long time. So now on to the most fearsome of all of the 996 generations, the GT2. Why fearsome? Why infamous, I hear you say? Well, imagine taking a 996 Turbo, stripping out the four-wheel drive system, making it lighter, and then tuning the engine up to somewhere around 476 bhp. It's a car with such a fearsome reputation. It's often described as the Widowmaker amongst enthusiasts because it's a car that has a reputation for needing a lot of concentration and a driver that can really take it by the scruff of the neck to get the best out of it. Would I like one? Oh, hell yeah. Hopefully that's been a really great overview for you of all the different 996 variants and models. If you'd like to know more, get a bit more behind the scenes, under the covers of what makes a 996 tick, then please hit subscribe and check out our 911 playlist for running details, maintenance costs and tips and tricks for keeping them on the road. So from us, from Motorhaus, here at RAF Cosford with Porsche Club of Great Britain, we'd like to say a very happy birthday to the Porsche 996, happy 25 years, and we'll see you again soon on another episode of Motorhaus.